Well, hello everybody. I wanted to do a little video for a midweek devotional, if you want to call it that, here at the Fellowship Hall, as you can probably tell. If you've seen Brian's video about the church update and changes and the way we're going to be doing things and stuff, I came up to the church this morning to set up the Sunday school room for social distancing. We've got room for about 10 to 12 people here, I think, and still maintain social distance. So if we have more people than that show up, then we will have to set up another table and some chairs, but I think this will be fine for the launch anyway. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're still working on your memory verses. The memory verse contest is still going to be going on when we come back. It may be revised just a little bit, but we're still going to be memorizing verses all year. Hope you're staying home, staying well, staying safe, all that good stuff, and staying healthy. But I wanted to do this little video. I was in my studies here recently. I came across this word study, and I've got a few notes here that I'm going to be reading from. But I hope it's as beneficial to you as it was to me. The word study we're doing is Shema. It's an ancient Hebrew word. It refers primarily to a couple of lines from the book of Deuteronomy in chapter 6, verses 4 and 5, that became a daily prayer in ancient Israelite tradition. It's the equivalent of the Lord's Prayer for Christians today. And the Shema gets its name from the first Hebrew word of the prayer in Deuteronomy 6:4. And it says, "Listen, Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone." The English word listen renders the Hebrew word Shema. Now, in the traditional Jewish prayer practice, these lines, verses 4 and 5, were combined with other passages from the Torah and were prayed in the morning and the evening. And it's been one of the most influential traditions in Jewish history, and it functioned both as the Jewish Pledge of Allegiance and also a hymn of praise. The Shema appears in the opening section of Deuteronomy, which is a collection of speeches attributed to Moses before the next generation of Israel entered the Promised Land. And Moses is challenging them with his wisdom and with a warning, because he doesn't want these Israelites to repeat the mistakes of their parents. Rather, he invites them to respond to God's grace and mercy with love and faithfulness and obedience. Now, the opening line, "Listen, O Israel," doesn't simply mean to let the sound waves enter your ear and come out the other one. Rather, the word listen means to allow the words to sink in, to provide understanding, to generate a response. We've said in Sunday school many times that faith is always followed by action. If I walk into a room and I see a chair, and that chair, I look at that chair and I have faith that that chair is going to support my weight, then I sit in it. And my faith is followed by an action. It's the same way in our Christian walk. Our faith should always be followed by action. We should act on that faith. And that's the kind of the meaning of this word Shema in ancient Hebrew. It means to generate a response. You hear, you understand, and you obey. And so in other words, hearing in ancient Hebrew, hearing and doing are the same thing. But what's Israel supposed to do? What is Israel what's the action that Israel is supposed to take in this? Well, it says after this first verse of "Listen, the Lord our God is," "Listen, Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone," it says you should love the Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. So that's the action that follows this. Love the Lord your God. In context, love isn't that warm, fuzzy feeling that we get when we like somebody. I love you. It's not that. It's in the Bible, love is action. Love is action. You love someone when you act in loyalty and faithfulness. And so for Israel, to love meant to faithful obedience to the terms of their covenant relationship with their God. And those terms are the laws and the commands that make up the body of Deuteronomy, chapters 12 through chapters 26. So this Shema, this prayer, says the Lord our God is one God, and we shall love the Lord God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. So we hear that, we understand it, and we obey it. Now, obedience to these laws, and we're studying this in Galatians right now, obedience to these laws was never about legalism or trying to earn God's favor. This is exactly what we're talking about in Galatians. But obedience in the Old Testament is about love and listening. If an Israelite loves God, it makes it easier to listen and to absorb his teachings and his guidance and his wisdom. So that's why the words listen and love are so tightly connected and repeated throughout these opening speeches in Deuteronomy. Now, the Shema became a twice daily prayer within Judaism. It was so widely practiced that Jesus himself grew up praying this prayer. It was formative for Jesus, and he drew upon it in his teachings. In Mark chapter 12, verses 29 through 31, he was asked which command in the Scriptures was the greatest. And it says, the first of all the commandments is, Listen, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. This is the first commandment. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. So this was ingrained into every Jewish child as they grew up, and it was part of their being. It was part of their culture. In the book of Revelation, John drew upon this prayer to describe Jesus' followers. In Deuteronomy 6, verse 8, you see these words, You shall bind these words as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as symbols between your eyes. In ancient Israel, they would write these scriptures on a little piece of paper, put it in a little box, put it with a strap, put it on their hand or around their head, and it'd be on their forehead. And they took this literally. And the physical location of on your hands and between your eyes is a symbol with fairly obvious meaning. Your eyes are the place where you see. And your hands you use for almost everything you do. So this prayer was to guide the vision and the action of every moment of your life. It was like a reminder. You start to do something and you see these scriptures on your hand and you think, oh, and you decide whether or not you need to be doing that with your hands, or if you need to be doing something else, or you're looking at something and then you remember these scriptures on your forehead and you think, maybe I shouldn't be looking at this. So it was a filter. It was a reminder each day of what you should be seeing, hearing, and doing with your life. That's why John says that in the new creation, when God's people live in intimate proximity to God and to Jesus, Revelation 22:4 says they will see God's face and his name will be on their foreheads. Now, this is in contrast to people who reject the way of Jesus. They have given their allegiance to other powers that are bent on destroying them. And these powers in Revelation are described as beasts. And John also drew upon the Shema to depict a human life on the path of destruction. In Revelation 13:16, it says, The beast also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads. This is an open display of Satan's rebellion against God. Now, for John, the choice was obvious. I mean, you either give your allegiance to Jesus and you allow it to influence how you see and how you do things, or your allegiance will belong to somebody else that will also determine how you see and how you act. The Shema is a beautiful prayer. There's a reason why God's people have been praying these words for millennia. They're simple words. They have the capacity to reshape the course of an entire life. The Shema can keep God's love and loyalty in the forefront of your mind and drive you towards obedience, not out of obligation or duty. Again, the law wasn't given so that we could earn our way to heaven, but it should drive us to obedience out of love because of what Christ has done for us. John 14:21. The one who hears my commands and keeps them. Hears and keeps them. That's the meaning behind Shema, is the one who hears and keeps. Hears and obeys. Hears and does. The one who hears my commands and keeps them, that's the one who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him, and I will reveal myself to him. So in order to have Jesus reveal himself to you in your life, you must hear his commands and do them. Hear and do. James says that we should be doers of the word, not hearers only. He said if you're only a hearer of the word, it's like you look in the mirror and then you turn away and you forget what you look like. And he says be a doer of the word, not just a hearer only. And he's referring back to this Shema concept where it's linked, hearing and doing. It's not separate. It's linked. Remember whose love started all this too. 1 John 4:19 says we love because he first loved us. And that's what started this whole chain reaction of love leading to obedience. God loved us. God so loved the world that he gave. And Jesus loved us that he gave. And we love God because he loved us first. Love came to us when we weren't even looking for it. We didn't know we needed to be loved. We thought we were being loved. But as we receive God's love, it generates gratefulness and humility and a commitment to honor and love in return. Love gives birth to more love, which in turn results in faithfulness and obedience. These are truths that can transform lives from the inside out. And remember, Romans tells us to not be conformed to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. This is a concept that can do that, or that can be the first step in doing that. I can't imagine a better way to never forget than memorizing and praying the Shema twice a day. We need to be reminded that the Lord our God is one God. We need to be reminded that his love never ends, that we are to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love our neighbor as ourselves. I would challenge you this week to examine your life and see if you are employing the intended meaning of the word Shema to your life. Hear and obey. I'd be willing to bet that in every one of our lives there's something that we read in the scriptures and we hear it, but we close our Bible and we turn around and we start not doing it. For instance, Jesus says, be anxious for nothing. And if you're in my Sunday school class, you know that word nothing is from an ancient Greek word that means nothing. That covers everything. Don't worry about anything. Anything. Jesus says, don't worry about anything. How many of us read that and we understand it because we're not stupid, and we close the Bible and then we find ourselves worrying about a personal problem or a family problem or a problem, somebody's got cancer and you're worried about it, or somebody's not saved and you're worried about it, and you're just in anguish over this, and you're just like, Lord, do something about this. We've looked in that mirror and we've walked away and we've forgotten what we look like. Jesus says, be anxious about nothing. If we employ the word Shema, we read that, we understand it, we close our Bible, and we act according to what we just read. I want you to look at your life this week, and whatever areas that God shows you where you're not applying this Shema principle, ask Him to help you in that area. There's areas in my life where I'm not employing it. There's areas in everybody's life, I'd be willing to bet. I don't think anybody in my class or in New Beginnings is perfect. And I think there are areas in everybody's life that we could probably do better in. When God says something and we say, oh yeah, I believe that, and then we close the book and we act as if we don't believe it, we're losing the meaning of the word Shema. Anyway, I hope this is beneficial to you. I hope it was interesting. It was interesting as I started studying it. The Lord brought the word to my mind, and I started looking at it and studying it. And I thought it was something that maybe we needed to hear. Again, Sunday school video will be up Saturday morning. I usually try to post them about 8 o'clock Saturday morning. We're going to try to figure out a way when we come back, we're going to try to figure out a way to record the Sunday school sessions at church and post them on YouTube as well on Sunday afternoon, so that, number one, I don't have to teach them twice, and number two, those who don't come to church can still get the benefit of the Sunday school lesson. We're going to finish up the book of Galatians, not anytime soon. We're doing it verse by verse pretty much. So we're only in chapter 3, so we're almost halfway through the book. So probably another 6 weeks or so, maybe a little bit longer on Galatians. And then we may go into Ephesians and do a book study on that, or we may do something else. I'm not sure which way God is going to lead me. And at some point, we are going to do a verse-by-verse study of the book of Revelation. So that'll be something to look forward to. I've had a lot of people ask about doing a study on the book of Revelation, and I've always been a little intimidated by that because I want to make sure I'm doing it right. But the Lord's kind of leading me that way, so it probably won't be anytime soon, but maybe by the end of the year, maybe the first of 2021, we'll be doing a study on the book of Revelation. So I'd like to wait until we've gotten back to full strength in Sunday school so that everybody can get the benefit of this. But we'll just see where the Lord leads. But if y'all need anything, holler at me. Let my wife know. Let Brian or Michelle know. One of the deacons, somebody. Don't just suffer in silence, because we're all here to help each other and we're all here to support each other. And I really hope everybody is doing well and staying well. The quarantine is testing our patience at home. It's okay to be with somebody a few hours a day, but when you've got to be with them 24/7, it can get a little maddening. I know I've gotten on my wife's nerves. She's gotten on my nerves a few times. We try to social distance at home so that we don't kill each other. But the Lord's going to get us through this. The Lord has gotten us this far without either one of us getting sick. We praise God for that. We thank Him. We've got food on the table. We've got a roof over our heads. We've got air conditioning and heating and running water. So we're not doing too badly. Pray for one another. Call one another. Send each other those virtual hugs on Facebook and text messages. Just let somebody know that you're thinking about them, and that will do a world of good. Y'all have a good week. Sunday school lesson will be up on Saturday. And until then, God bless you.